So first, how many of you in here know what a third culture kid is? Okay. Now, out of you who are still standing, how many of you know a third culture kid? How many of you are third culture kids? Okay, so this question is directed towards everyone who's still standing. What is your least favorite question to be asked? Yes, I just heard it. Where are you from? So I moved to Switzerland from the United States when I was 12, 13 years old. So I'm a third culture kid as well. And in case you hear me say TCK, that just means third culture kid in short. So my least favorite question is also, where are you from? When I used to get asked this, I would go through my long list of cities and countries that I've lived in and the schools I've attended. But when I moved to the United States, I realized that people weren't asking me because they wanted to hear my long-winded story. They had no idea that such a simple question could solicit such a difficult answer. When I was 18 years old, I had already lived in 2 different countries and 3 cities, and by the time I turned 20, which is my current age, I'd attended 3 universities in 3 different countries. And after that, I got to thinking, where do I fit in? This is a question TCKs ask themselves all the time. A third culture kid is a child raised in a different country than that of their parents or than that named on their passport. The first culture that the child belongs to is that of the home culture, also known as the passport culture. The second culture that the child belongs to is that of the host culture, or where the child is moving to. And finally, the third culture refers to that which is created by belonging to a community of other TCKs. Now, what's so fascinating about the TCK is that they transition between cultures before their identity has adequate time to solidify. I see myself as both American and not American, as Swiss, but also not quite Swiss. That's because TCKs build relationships to many cultures without fully belonging to any. There seems to be a technical difficulty. Yes, thank you. So, much research has been done about what distinguishes the TCK from the non-TCK. And generally, the studies have pointed towards 5 different points. First, TCKs exhibit greater social sensitivity in their interactions with others. TCKs also rate themselves as more culturally accepting, interested in travel, interested in international careers, and open to learning languages. TCKs are also cross-culturally adaptable and have highly developed critical thinking skills. And finally, third culture kids possess a relationship-based theory of identity rather than geographically based. Now, it's no surprise that the third culture kid grows up differently than a child raised in a single country. After all, they're exposed to different languages, cultures, customs, and people. And of course, as TCKs, we have a lot to be grateful for. We get to experience and travel the world. But with that, as with anything in life, come its challenges. And one of those challenges that psychologists are interested in learning about today is the TCK college students' adaptation to college life. So it's not uncommon for TCKs to return to their home culture and experience the same culture shock, readapting to their home culture as they once did assimilating to their host culture. Repatriation can be especially difficult considering that many TCKs are coming from their small, tight-knit international schools with a TCK majority to big universities with a TCK minority. In fact, research has suggested that repatriation is most successful when TCKs have stable and reliable relationships to lean on during the adaptation process. But that's easier said than done. The college experience for TCKs often involves living in a different country or continent than one's parents, as opposed to a different city or a different state, which is already difficult enough in itself. Some research has gone so far as to call the third culture kid the hidden immigrant. Like an immigrant, third culture kids may experience a lack of cultural competencies, social cues, and cultural experiences that their peers possess. As such, the TCK should be considered a special kind of international student, having to adjust to the new norms, but the difference lies in the fact that the TCK looks, speaks, and behaves similarly to members of their passport culture, and so often go unnoticed. Now, I experienced this firsthand when I moved back to the United States after living for 8 years abroad. I sought therapy to address some of these challenges that I was facing myself as a third culture kid, many of which I've already mentioned in this presentation. And I told my therapist, I don't feel like I fit in. I can't relate to the kids here, and I just don't know what to talk about that can get this through to them. And what I said was, back in Switzerland, I talked to my friends about the languages we speak, where we travel, where we come from. But like I said, here I just don't know how. And her response to me was, well, Americans come from places too. That was when my differentness really clicked to me. I felt helpless and misunderstood because the cultural and emotional barrier was so great between me and the person who was genuinely trying to help me. That's why it's so important that TCKs present themselves in universities, and that universities are aware of them and aware of the challenges they face. When they do this, everybody can benefit. The TCK benefits from increased institutional support. The student body benefits by becoming more culturally enriched. And finally, the institution as a whole is benefited greatly by a more diverse and open-minded campus culture. Now, we've gotten to that point in the presentation where you're probably asking me, so what? Why does this matter? We know who the TCK is. We know what sets them apart from non-TCKs, and we know the challenges they face when reintegrating to their home culture. So now what? Why do we need to talk about this? Well, the case of the TCK is important to consider because it has important implications on identity and what it means to belong somewhere. More specifically, what it means to belong to a particular nationality. As we know it now, nationality assumes you can only belong to one culture. Moving to the United States, I felt like I had to leave this third culture part of me behind because I was made to feel different. We need to change this idea of nationality that is born and enduring. We aren't just who we are in our passports or where we come from in our birth certificates. Nationality can be fluid. Going back to the question I raised at the beginning of this presentation, where are you from? That will always be my least favorite question. Sometimes when I get asked it, I answer America. Sometimes when I get asked it, I answer Switzerland. You are not alone, especially to the TCKs out there. It is okay to be third cultured and confused. Find the people who want to listen to your story. Find the people who don't. Spread the word about third culture confusion. And most of all, keep carrying your experiences with you wherever you go. Thank you.